Hello class, in this video we are going to walk through the assignment for the week, and this is related to your term project. This is the first time you're looking at your term project data and doing something with it, and in fact this is probably 33% of your term project time. You will have data from a real-world company. They chose to be anonymous, but it's data that they have provided and in some cases is inspired by. In other words, they did not feel comfortable giving you enough information to figure out their real details, their secret sauce, if you will. So the data was inspired by and provided by a real company, and so we want to be mindful that we don't have everything. So that's what I want to preface you with here is you have enough to do the term project as prescribed in this course, but I do know some of you come from supply chain management or purchasing or sales, and you might raise your hand and say, hey, they're missing this. Hey, how come I don't have this data? Hey, can we call the company and ask for this? The answer is no. We have enough to do the project, which is to identify audit cost changes in preparation for a price negotiation that is upcoming. So the purpose of this video, as I mentioned, is we are going to combine internal data. We are role-playing in this environment here. If you've never worked for a company that uses data, or maybe you have, your mileage will vary, of course, but we are role-playing here with this in a, what we might call a simulated environment. So we have to integrate some data, which is one area of the course that we'll be talking about. Feature engineering is also something that we talk about in this course. And so one reason we're doing this data set this week is because I want you to start thinking about the project. I don't want you to wait until week 7 when we've covered data engineering, feature engineering, data integration, and some of those things already. I want you thinking about the project because it is a moving target. It's an important part of your grade, including what we're talking about here today. This is due at the end of the week. Okay, so again, your mileage will vary. Once we get going on this, some of you might think, okay, I know what you want from me. I don't need to watch the rest of this video. That is perfectly acceptable. So what is the end goal of the submission for this week, you might ask? Well, there's a couple of things here. You need to follow the steps to get a proper data file. This merged data sheet that you see here, that is what we need you to complete. We need you to upload this file with the merged data, all these headers or field names or variables, if you will, completed. I need to know that you're able to integrate data because it's part of the course, but also it's a necessary component of our project here, and it's a reality. I'm sure many of you who do this work can agree that data is not always available. Sometimes you have to go to 5 different people. Maybe you have a data warehouse, or maybe you have a data mart or a data lake or something like that, and maybe you have access to it. Or other times you might have to go to a help desk person and wait a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to get data on a project. So your mileage varies based on data science strategy in your company. Okay, so let's begin. I want you to note the product numbers are over here and they are not in a specific order. I have quantity sold, which is a sales thing. I have current inventory quantity, which means if I were to go into the system and ask how much inventory I have of each product number, it's going to give me something. Product category, so what product category does this product belong to? Country of origin, where is it primarily manufactured? Raw material value, that's going to be a key. We'll explore that in a little bit. So if you've had SQL training or if you've had our 665 class, again, mileage varies. Many students come at this class. Sometimes this is the first class they take. Other times you've taken 630 or another pathway to this class. We have those financials, if you remember from our first week of the course, price, we have cost. We also have material here. which I want you to note, we have material value over here and material here and category and material base. That's going to be important because what we wanted to give you in this course, and you'll see in this program, is the real world feel, the good, bad, and the ugly, if you will. And we'll explore that shortly, and I'll give you commentary on that. Okay, so sales data. Okay, it's not zoomed into the 220% for demonstration purposes. Here it is. So product number, quantity, price each, and cost. Note that it's not in the same order as it is over here. So we also want to bring over this information. We want to bring over this information, which is country of origin, product category. So this could be in your SQL database. This could be your product table. Inventory. So again, if I were to go into the system and pull all the values, this is our current inventory quantity, not quantity on order, not quantity in transit, not quantity in holding, not quantity anything else. It is currently what we have in our warehouse. Okay, this is what I was saying before. I know some people come from a unique background and may say, well, what about these other quantity ins or quantity ons or quantity orders? And no, we're simplifying this here. Current inventory quantity is what we have in our possession. It is not allotted to a customer. It's not like, well, actually we only have 8,000 because 2,900 of that is going to another customer. No, we're centris paribus, right? Remember week 1, we covered centris paribus. That's what we're after here. It's a very simplistic view here. And then we have material data. We've got that material ID, which is that code I was talking about earlier, that key, if you will. Then I got material category, material base, and then I have an explanation of what this is. So if you were curious, what this is, you will have differing values. It is not necessary to put this into our merged data. This is just for you if you're curious as to what this stuff is, because eventually you're going to have to look at some external data. Not this week, but in future weeks, you'll be provided with some external data that you'll have to further merge or create a new spreadsheet out of. So again, I want to focus only on this internal data that we have here. So the first thing we're going to do is this VLOOKUP function. Okay, if you've never done the VLOOKUP before, it is one of the most popular functions that is used in Excel. There's a horizontal lookup. There's an X lookup. There's an index with a match combination. There are a lot of different ways to do what we're about to do, but the far more common one is the VLOOKUP. If this was a SQL database, you might be familiar with inner joins and outer joins and things like that for an update query or insert into or something along those lines. That could be seen as equivalent to what we're going to do with the VLOOKUP function here. Okay, so I'll walk through the VLOOKUP function a couple of times, and then I'm going to pause the video. I'll come back and my work will be completed for some of the columns. That's because the onus is on you to complete the stuff that I skip over so that you're not sitting here watching a 40-minute video. Okay, so the VLOOKUP function. I don't use this wizard, but for your purposes, I will, so that you can see how this is set up the first time. Then I won't use the wizard anymore as I go through, and we'll go from there. So I cannot zoom this in. I do apologize. I cannot zoom this in. I will use a magnifying glass to show you this right here. So the VLOOKUP function wants to find something that is the same in two different places. So in this case, I want to find P898 someplace in a different place. Do not type in P898. The reason for that is we want to be able to use this as a free floating function, which means I want to drag this function down so that it captures all the unique part numbers. So please do not type the actual product number in here. Please click on the product number cell. Table array, this is like saying, where do you want me to look for that value in A2? Where do you suspect that there is a match? Like what spreadsheet or what area? You can even do this in different workbooks, as long as they're open. So table array is, where do you want me to look? Well, I'm going to go over to the sales table because we just looked in the sales table and we found quantity sold. So note that it says sales data exclamation. What we want to do now is left click and hold the button down. Left click and hold down. Don't left click and let go. Left click, hold down on that left click on your mouse and drag from left to right. And here we are. I'm still holding down on that. See, again, I cannot zoom this in. I do apologize, but on my screen it says 1,048,576R times 2C. What that means is I have selected 1,048,576 rows and 2 columns to look for this. Now, the way VLOOKUPs work, this is very important. This spreadsheet's nice and neat, right? It's an academic experience. In the real world, without your professor designing the spreadsheet, it's important to know that whatever you're looking for, in this case, again, product number, it has to be on the leftmost side of your VLOOKUP table array. So I cannot have quantity sold in column A and product number in column B. This function will not work that way. You need to have what you're trying to match up in the leftmost column that you've started with. Okay, you see that 2C I was talking about? We can let go now. We're done. So sales data, exclamation, A colon B. Now column index array, this is like saying, hey, you told me what you wanted to look for. You told me where to look. What do you want me to bring back once I find a match? So you told me what to look for. You told me where to look for it. What do you want me to do now? Well, I want you to bring back the data from column 2, which if you recall from the sales data sheet, that is the quantity sold information. Okay, now we hit the tab button and go to range lookup. Now range lookup, what this is saying is, do you want something similar to that P898, such as P891, P889, something similar to that? Or do you want an exact match? In other words, 0. 0 means false. I do not want something similar. If you look down here, find an exact match equals false. So if I want to find an exact match, I put in a 0, which is the same as saying false in Excel. 1 is true, 0 is false. 1 is yes, 0 is no in binary. So now I have it set up this way. I'll try to move my cursor so you can see the whole setup. Okay. Now we hit OK. And I've got the 12,028. Now one thing I like to do to double check my work is I like to look for that P898 over here. Do a Control F, P898. Found it, and I've got my 12,028, which is what I have here with my VLOOKUP. Now, you might say, Professor, do I have to do any absolute cell references? No, not in this situation, because we're going to keep this free floating, and we're only dragging this one down. If we were to drag this over, there's a whole mess of things that happen, and we have to talk about that later if that's something. There's a way to do VLOOKUPs very fast, but you have to mess with a bunch of stuff up here. So we're going to double click, drag this down, and now we have all of our values. I like to scroll down, especially when I do the first through, and I'm like, aha, Professor, something's wrong. Look, we got zeros. Again, check your data, double check. Boom. We actually do have 0 inventory for that product. So your VLOOKUP did this correctly. If your VLOOKUP did not find a match, you will find an error like that, #NA. That means that there's no P219 in your sales data. Now, obviously I did that for demonstration purposes, so I undid that and there actually is a match. Okay, so there we go, we have that for us. Now remember that trick that I talked about before. Pay special value is very useful in multiple situations. Especially if you're going to delete something, like if I'm going to delete the part number, boom, I just lost everything. Now, why would you delete the part number? You wouldn't, but so there you go. Also, every time you change something in your spreadsheet, like every time I type something, these formulas are firing off again. So if you're working with a lot of data, you might slow down your Excel spreadsheet, because even though the number's not changing, when these functions are live, anytime you do something, anytime you sort the data, anytime you put in a new function in somewhere else, it's refiring all of those live functions. So more often than not, I like to copy paste special value. But here's a trick for you. I like to copy this formula manually. So not down here, but go up here, copy it. I like to right click and go to insert comment. And I like to put my formula in there. And then I can copy paste special value this. And if I ever want to redo that formula, say, oh, I don't know, maybe I need to redo that because the numbers changed. Because right, let's say you get a new report that says, oh, actually now we have 1,200. Your numbers are no longer going to change over here. But what I like to do then is like, oh, okay, I'll go up to here, I'll go to edit, the comment, copy this, go over here, paste it back in. Bob's your uncle, we're working again. Okay, so just a little tip for you, not necessary for this project, but I like to teach you something extra that you might not have been aware of before. Okay, so go ahead now. Well, let's play. We'll do one more. We'll do a current inventory this time. And this time I'm not going to use the wizard. I'm going to do the VLOOKUP. I'm going to click on that P898. Okay, I got that P898. Hit a comma. So if you do it without the wizard, be very careful that you put those commas in there. Otherwise, it's going to cause some problems for you. So back to the inventory. Left click, drag to the right, just like I did before in the first example. We want the second column, comma, 2. Why 2? Because it's the second column that we're grabbing here. If it was the third column, we would put a 3 in there, a fourth column, a 5, something like that. Remember, we do that 0 for the true appropriate match. So the exact match, the appropriate exact match. Double click or copy this, go over there just to double check. And we got 68,000 in inventory. Okay, so bring this down. We've got what we need. Again, if you want to see that little hint there, right click, go to insert, paste that formula in there, copy, right click, paste special, values. And yes, I am aware, folks, that you can hit this 1, 2, 3 as well. I'm old school. I grew up when these cute little emojis and things like that didn't exist. So it's just a habit that I go to click that paste special text to get what I'm looking for. Okay, so now you've seen a couple of examples. I'm going to skip over a few of these right here and you're going to complete them on your own. I am going to skip over price and cost. Do those on your own. What I'm going to focus on here is the raw material value, which is the key. So I'm going to do a VLOOKUP for that. Over here, comma, go over to product data, product number, raw material value. See here, I've got 1,048,576 R times 4C. And I'm sorry, I cannot zoom that in. It's just a graphic user interface thing with Microsoft Excel. And the other thing you do is you just realize 1, 2, 3, 4. So you don't even need to have that tiny little text that I cannot zoom in. Just say, okay, this is the first column, second column, third column, fourth column. Okay, comma. Do not put that 4 in right away. Make sure you get that comma in there, and then a 4, and then a 0. Okay, so we'll drag that down. Again, I like to double check. P898, we'll go over to that product table. Did we get the 75? Yes, we did. We got a 75. Okay, great, wonderful. Again, if you want to do that trick, insert comment, save, a special value that, and move on. Okay, again, not going to do price and cost. That's on your own. Now what I want to show you, so I don't want to go too deep here, but if those of you have a SQL training or database administration training, and you're familiar with the star schema, well, this would be considered a snowflake schema, where I have to link product number to raw material value, and then raw material value with material, material category, and material base. Because if you look over here, there isn't a product number in here. All I have is this, which I got over here, from here. So those of you that had decision support systems or a background in database or information systems class, we're kind of doing, if you close your mind and imagine a snowflake schema, where I'm getting something from somewhere so I can get something else from something else. Okay. Lucky for you, we're not going to be doing any databases in this class. That's an entirely different course that they have. Okay, so I'm going to do a VLOOKUP here. So this is the first one where I'm not doing product number. I'm not just saying, huh? Like, yeah, we don't need product number now. In fact, we don't have it. So we're going to look for that 75, so comma, so F2, comma, we're going to go to material data, starting in A, we're going to go for, I'm going to show you a trick here. Now I could stop here because that's the first column I want, but I know later on I'm going to want material category and material base. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to go to A through D, and you might say, Professor, I'm so confused now. Just stick with me, hit a comma and put a 2, not a 4, put a 2. You might say, Professor, I'm so confused now. What are you doing? Well, I'm trying to save you some time. Now, at first, you've never done this before, it's going to take you time. But I guarantee you, once you do it and you kind of get an idea of what I just did, it's going to save you time. Okay, comma, 0, just like we've done. There, okay. Now, this is where we're going to have to absolute cell reference some things. F2, we want the F cell referenced. We want the A through D cell referenced because we're going to drag this down and across. So down first, we got what we need. That's the material. And now we're going to drag across. And you see how it's duplicates. In fact, let's just show you it's duplicates. You might be saying, oh, Professor, that's wrong. Well, yeah. So we're going to go up here instead of that 2. See, everything else stayed the same. F2, A through B. We're going to change that 2 to a 3. You might say, oh, it's the same thing. Well, it might be. That might be the reality of the data. Over here, we're going to put that 4. Where did we get the 4 from? A, B, C, D. Okay, back here. A, B, C, D, and that's our 4. Okay. So, you might say, oh man, you still did it wrong. I'm not convinced. Okay. I could have done it wrong, but I don't think so. So, it just so happens the reality of this company's data, the reality is sometimes this is all it is. Polyethylene, polyethylene, polyethylene. But here, rubber neoprene is how they list it for right or for wrong. I know some of you have that background. Like, oh, why didn't they just call it neoprene? And then I break it out rubber, rubber. More often than not, these two are going to be the same. Okay? Not always, but more often than not. Okay? So there we go. We got cork, composite, cork, cork. Okay. So look at this one here, galvanized steel, Corten steel, steel, steel. See how they're all the roads are leading to a specific type of steel for this company. Okay. If we scroll down, we can see even those ones that don't have any data over here have data here. All right. So folks, you've just done a lot of VLOOKUPs, a lot of different ways. Go ahead, finish this file, bring in product category from the product database, country of origins over here, right? These are the categories. The company did not want to specify the products enough for you to self-identify them. And there's good and bad with that, right? We have country of origin. In fact, we have it twice. So folks, here is a taste of the real world. Sometimes companies duplicate their columns, okay? Sometimes they duplicate their columns, okay? Okay. So that is the first leg of the assignment. Complete this, all this data, merge it successfully. Okay, so before you do that though, I mean, if you've been following along, you've done some of this work, I'm going to explain one more facet of the project that you need to do.